Hi, Will. I am a high school civics teacher and I would love to discuss this organization. Well, good. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, there was a bit of technical difficulty on our end, but it's all right. Good. It looks like we have a few people excited to chat with you today. So first off, do you just want to give a brief introduction, just who you are, your service, like
Absolutely.
that?
Um, so my name's McKelynn. I serve with ArtistYear in North Carolina. I'm currently serving at Aberdeen Elementary, which I served at during the 2021-2022 academic year, and will be returning to for the 2022-2023 year as well.
Okay, awesome. And how did you hear about the service here in general?
I had a professor my last semester who had served with AmeriCorps before she got her master's and all this stuff, and she had seen that ArtistYear was accepting applications, and throughout all of college I had expressed that I had wanted to combine elements of community and dance, and when she saw that that was kind of what ArtistYear stood for and that their values aligned with mine, she went ahead and sent over the application to me, and that was the first time I'd heard of any sort of service year.
Okay. So what is you kind of touched on what you do during your service. What does your day to day look like, if you can describe that a little bit?
Yeah, so my day to day um typically starts between 7 and 9, whether that's starting with computer work or going into school and doing brain breaks. And then from there, I do a lot of big projects at my school. So a lot of my day is spent working on logistics, contacting parents, figuring out when things are going to happen, how we're going to practice things, lesson planning. And then I'll usually do a lesson or two throughout the week, but I mainly do things with our after school care kids. And that may mean a whole lot of different things. That may mean just being an adult in the space that they know that they can trust and play cards with and hang out with. Or that also may mean doing dance practices. So the days vary a lot, but a lot of the time, it's dancing here and there and a lot of planning.
Okay, great. I mean, it sounds exciting. Each day is a little bit different, though. Um, do you serve by yourself, or do you have a team that kind of works with you? Does it depend?
Yeah, Yeah, it depends. So this past year, we had two artist year teaching artists in my school. So it was myself and Christina Shin, who was a creative writer. And her and I did a lot of projects separately, but then we also combined together to run our theater club, to do some one-off projects like our spelling bee, and then we also would help our other teaching artists at their school. So one person did a talent show, so we went and helped them with that. One person did a play, we helped them with that. So we didn't have a whole bunch of formal group projects that we did necessarily, but we most definitely looked out for each other and would integrate ourselves into each other's schools whenever we could.
Yeah, great. Do you have any specific projects that are your favorite? You could have worked as a team by yourself. Anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, one of my favorite projects that I did this year was our Black History Month project, where I assigned each fifth grade class a different Black inspired music genre or music era that was heavily inspired by Black musicians and Black artists. And then those classes were broken into various groups, and then the groups were given various tasks. And then we had this huge assembly where the kids were presenting various aspects of those music genres.
Okay.
Um, so that was really cool. And I did have to enlist some help from my cohort with running sound, recording, all sorts of stuff. So that was a really awesome project that I got to do.
Yeah, were the parents allowed to? It was just the school, or everyone came?
Yeah, so because of the timing and where it fell, parents weren't able to attend in person, but we did do a live Zoom, and all of the parents were given that information. And then the teachers also got to Zoom their students in. So then it was like a school-wide assembly without the students being in the actual space.
Oh, okay. That was more of a question for me. I thought it was interesting. Kind of switching gears just a little bit. What were your expectations Have they been met? Have they been surpassed?
Yeah, so prior to me starting, I thought that every day I was going to be dancing all day. Teachers were going to be just filling up my calendar. I'd be running around. And that wasn't necessarily what happened. I sent a lot of emails out to teachers at my school, letting them know who I was, what my role was in the school, things that I would be more than happy to help them with. And very few of them welcome to be in to do push-ins just because of time and things that they do have to get done throughout the day. So that expectation was different than what I had anticipated. But because of that shift, I think it gave me time to explore other things that I wanted to share with the students because my discipline is dance, and so I think there's the expectation that I just do dance with the kids, but as I just mentioned, I did a whole project about music,
Yeah.
and then I also taught kids how to crochet. The other artist and I did a theater club, so I think that gave me space to go outside of my discipline and do other things as well.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of all the things that you've been doing, what's the most important thing or of a specific point?
I think one of the most important things that I learned was I put a lot of pressure on myself early on that I had to be like this rock star teacher all the time, and like I was the fun teacher and like set this precedent that like things were always fine. And I think something that I learned was that it's okay to not always be that, and it doesn't mean that you're not a bad teacher just because you're having a bad day. And I think it's really helped me connect with my students because being in elementary is hard. It's hard being 5 to 10, and it's also hard being 22. So
Yeah.
I think that was something that was really important for me to recognize. And of course it's something that I was cognizant of prior to that, but then like actually going through that and being like, you know what, if a kid has a hard day, I don't just have to be like, nope, your day needs to be fine, and you need to just brush it off and
Hmm.
be cool with whatever happens. So I think that was a really important thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's important in all aspects, not even just for teachers in general. You're not a bad person just because you're having a bad day kind of thing. Yeah. I think you touched on this in the stories, but just for the people that haven't seen, what's like one or two of the best parts about your service?
Yeah, the kids are most definitely the best part. Our town that we live in is pretty small, so I see them out and about pretty often, just like at the grocery store or when I'm just like out on walks. And it's always really fun when they get excited to see me, but their parents don't know who I am. So
Yeah.
there's kind of like this weird moment of like, who is this adult that you're just like running up to and like hugging and like talking to? And getting to like meet their parents briefly has been kind of fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's rewarding, especially just how look so much. Um, what's something that's surprised you during your time? Kind of talked about your experience, but like, what's something that kind of took you by surprise?
Prior to my year, I would hear people be like, "Oh, a preschool teacher has 15 kids in the class. That's so wild." But I used to be like, 15 kids, that's not that many. But then when you're teaching, you feel every single one of those 15 kids and about like five other kids. Like numbers are not real. Like it's very different. And that was really surprising to me because my like from January to April, I did a really, really big dance recital that had over 100 kids in it. And prior to planning that, I was like, oh, this won't be a big deal. Like, we'll just have kids from every class, it'll be easy. And luckily, the kids were awesome. But it was still a lot of kids and a lot of things that I hadn't dealt with that many kids and that big of a capacity before. Um, so that was really surprising to me.
Yeah, I just can't even imagine, but the patience you must have. Any fun moments or stories that you want to share, just like of the kids, of just you during your service, any of that?
One that sticks out to me is I got a little speaker so then we could practice outside because there wasn't any space in the school for us to practice. So when the kids found out that I had a speaker, they wanted to have impromptu dance parties. And it was so fun. And after school care, they loved this little girl, rapper Lele, and they would go so hard when I would play her song. They had like a little kid club going on. It was so fun.
I, that's adorable.
They were awesome.
Oh, that's so cute. Do you, what advice do you have for young individuals just looking into service or
Yeah, I think I think that service years. A lot of people go into service years for different reasons, and I think all those reasons are valid. But I think to remember why you're really there, and it is to serve the communities that you're in. Because I think when you lose sight of that, the job is already kind of difficult, and it becomes even more difficult when you kind of lose sight of that purpose.
Mhm.
So I think just keeping that in mind, and also if you do get to do a service year, to keep all those good memories like really close to you because you're only with these communities for such a short amount of time,
Yeah.
and like there are really special things that happen, and especially teaching in an elementary. Um, there's a really high chance that I won't get to see these kids again after I leave, and like they're not high schoolers where they can just like email me after they graduate, and so just really like not taking that time for granted that you get to serve.
Yeah. That's a great point, especially working with kind of, it's hard to keep in touch after that when they're 5 and 6.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Let's switch gears a little more and talk more about specifically artist year. How do you think that artist year is
Prior to doing ArtistYear, I knew that I wanted to do something that combined community and movement, but then I think being an ArtistYear was a testament to me that this truly was something that I wanted to do, and that it did feel right, and that I wasn't like so far off the beaten path with what I wanted to do in the future.
Yeah.
So I think it's most definitely like made me shift just the timeline of when I would like to do things in life because I do really like teaching. And so it's made me think, do I keep teaching? Do I go into professional work? Do I try to do both? Do I return to teaching later? So it's kind of just put some things into a little more clear of a perspective for myself.
Okay. Yeah. Have you learned any skills like that can help you in your next role, hard or soft? Any of them that are sticking out to you?
Yeah, ArtistYear, the model that we have is we're partnered with someone at our school, and that's kind of who we um, connect with to kind of understand the ecosystem of the school and get to know the students and kind of transition from being just your own person into fulfilling a teaching role.
Mhm.
And because of that model, you really have to advocate for yourself and advocate that you want to teach and that you want space, that you want to explore other things because your teacher that you're paired with, they already have their own systems in place.
Mhm.
So I think that was a really big thing is advocating and also putting myself out there a lot because I sent out emails to the entire school that people did not respond to. So just being willing to do that and accepting that that's the reality.
Okay. Yeah. What's the biggest area of growth for you? Like, have you improved throughout your service and in what specifically?
I think it's kind of similar to the skills that I learned of like advocating.
Hmm.
That's been a really big area of growth. And also, I think fine tuning my ability to pivot really quickly when lessons aren't going well or like a kid says something to you that's like that you could not even imagine and then like needing to respond to
Yeah.
that. So I think that's been a large area of growth and just like continuing to work on like being patient and empathetic towards the different ways my students are showing up.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. If anyone is interested in like pursuing a career in arts or teaching through the arts or service in arts, what would you recommend ArtistYear to them, and what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I would most definitely recommend ArtistShare. And a previous teaching artist put it best, where they said that ArtistShare is cool because you're in the space as an artist, but you're not connected to the school. So you have a lot of autonomy in the things that you get to do, which you wouldn't necessarily get if you were working for a school. So it gives you a lot of room. Where if I need days to work on just the paperwork for a dance recital, I have the opportunity to do that, or I have the opportunity to push in or pull out and do all sorts of things. So I think it's a good space for you to hone in on how you want to exemplify your teaching artistry.
Okay, perfect. Are there still opportunities to serve within this cohort or this year's cohort?
There most definitely are. Our applications are still open for the 2022-2023 academic year. They're open until I believe August 10th.
Okay.
Um, So the opportunity is still there. We're also going to be opening applications for the 2023-2024 academic year in September. So if you are on the path to graduate, or if you have recently graduated and this academic year is seeming a little bit close, I'd most definitely recommend looking into applying for this upcoming year.
Okay, perfect. And we'll make sure to link ArtistYear in our bio as well, just for people to have a quick link. A
Perfect.
few more like fun kind of questions. What are your plans after your service year? Do you have any? Have you thought about it yet?
Yeah, right now it's very much, so there's some loose plans.
Okay.
The area that I live in right now, professional dance isn't necessarily in abundance. So the potential for me to dance professionally and continue teaching um, isn't isn't necessarily clear at this moment in time.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of just depends on what opportunities present themselves and how this upcoming year goes.
Yeah, kind of just going with the flow, seeing what pops up.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite like quotes or words that anyone's ever told you just on your path in general? It doesn't have to be throughout service, but I know for young adults like myself and others, it's nice to hear other people's perspectives just on life. So do you have any fun quotes or anything like that you want to share?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to talk to a dancer about a month and a half ago. And basically, we were just talking about how the world of dance can feel very intimidating, and how you understand that it's not the most prosperous of career paths. Um, but she's like, just go for broke, which I think relates to like just being a young person in general, like not even related to dance, because I think there's a lot of pressure to feel like we have to have it together, or that we have to explore practical like careers, and that's the way we need to be. So I mean, it's not comfy, but just go for being broke.
Yeah,
Just
I feel
do your
what
thing.
you said. There's a stigma around kind of having a plan for what you're going to do outside of college and kind of for the rest of your life. And it's hard to have that plan when you're 20, 21, 22 years old. This last question kind of relates to it a little bit, but any last words of encouragement to give people who are wanting to sign up for service years and are going into their service year?
Yeah. I think in some ways it can most definitely feel like a sacrifice, and like you're putting your life on pause to complete your service. And I think finding a way to shift that, and like recognizing that what you're doing is so important, and truly no one can fill your role the way that you can. Um, and that can be so hard. It's a lot easier said than done. But like it's really special what you get to do, and the time is going to fly by. and you're going to look back and be like, oh my gosh, like I wonder where my students are now, or I wonder where that community is now, or so and so is now 5 years down the line. Um, so it's a really unique and special experience.
Yeah.
And good luck.
Perfect. That's a great way to end it out. But yes, thank you for spending some time with us today and kind of talking through your experience. I hope everyone watching and future watchers slash listeners will learn something. Everyone who's watching, she will still be online kind of on our Q&A section. So if you have any questions for her, please feel free to ask over there. And thank you to you and thank you to ArtistYear, and hopefully you'll join back for another takeover.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you. Bye, everyone.